Hello, my name is Madison Cook, and today I'm going to be talking about the subgenre Posthuman Gothic. So, here are the objectives for today. We are going to be defining the Posthuman Gothic and its key characteristics and the tropes that go along with it, and that coincides with traditional Gothic literature, and we're going to compare that. We'll examine posthuman Gothic themes in literature and film. And we will be able to recognize the psychological, cultural, and ethical anxieties posthuman Gothic reflects. Okay, so we are on to the introduction to the posthuman Gothic. This combines posthumanism and Gothic literature. Posthumanism being philosophical, and posthumanism basically means sorry, give me just a second. Posthuman basically means to kind of transcend humanity. It means something that challenges traditional ideas of what it means to be human. And this can look like kind of like a mutational or genetic difference. It's kind of like the idea of the uncanny. Posthuman Gothic explores technological and biological horror. This coincides with the body horror trope. There's a lot of grotesque details involved. There is an inherent loss of human identity as synthetic life has evolved, and humans kind of lose the meaning or the place in the hierarchical order of things of society. Posthuman Gothic includes the uncanny in digital and cybernetic spaces, so it kind of meshes this idea of cyberpunk, science fiction, technology with traditional Gothic tropes, and it kind of evolves, and we will see that in the next slide. So here are the characteristics or traits of the posthuman Gothic subgenre. On the left of the arrow, we have the traditional Gothic tropes. We have the haunted castle setting. However, in the posthuman Gothic subgenre, we have things like AI-controlled environments and some cyberspace limited environment. And more often than not, I've actually, there's kind of like this duality of being in ruins, kind of reminiscent to traditional Gothic with the ruined landscape. There's like a ruined AI-controlled environment, or there's this very sleek, kind of looks like a motherboard environment involved. In the traditional Gothic, we had the monster. And in the posthuman Gothic, we have artificial intelligence or some kind of synthetic hybrid that is involved. For the traditional Gothic, we have the pursued hero trope, which kind of evolves into the posthuman genre of the fragmented and uploaded consciousness. So this basically means that the pursued hero becomes this kind of very fractional division. Next we have the uncanny landscapes. Now, the thing with post-human Gothic, it does heavily involve the uncanny trope. And this is because, now in modern times, we are coming out with artificial intelligence and robots that look and act like they are humans. And there's something so familiar, but it's just kind of strange. It's very, it's uncanny. And with the derivation of the post-human Gothic, we have this idea of dystopian futures and virtual reality. And what's so terrifying is the lack of control you really have over these kinds of things. With the dystopian futures, we have what could be, what will be kind of idea. And on the bottom here, we have some specific tropes that the post-human Gothic envelopes from, or kind of takes from, traditional Gothic. This includes the wandering Jew trope. This includes the uncanny trope, the sadism, the entrapment, the grotesque trope. And now we will be moving on to the derivation of post-human Gothic. So the post-human Gothic, it kind of came from the 20th century to the 21st century. It kind of seems to have come about in modern times. Now things like, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I would even say that is very reminiscent of post-human Gothic, because you have that science fiction that synthetic life that came about, that was created. And I feel like that is very, very reminiscent of what it means to be post-human. So I wouldn't say it's like, I feel like it's like a mesh. And I feel like that's where post-human Gothic really started. But it didn't really set forth until we started getting, the science fiction started becoming more popular in mass media. So we get science fiction and cyberpunk influence from the 20th century, which flows into the 21st century. And what's kind of common about this is the fear of the future and the loss of identity due to synthetic life. So, in modern times, for example, right now we are experiencing AI implementation, in fast food drive-thrus, in, educational facilities, in work, in practically anything you can think of now for convenience. But it's like, at that same time, it's as if we're opening Pandora's box. And that's what's so scary, because the lines become blurred between, okay, what is, what boundaries can you draw from something so new that is being implemented practically everywhere. And there's this fear of the artificial life taking over humanity. And, humanity is not going to last forever. That is scientifically proven. We've only existed for a very merely a blip in time. And one day we will cease to exist as a species. And so that's where this kind of idea stems from, or this fear of AI taking over. And now we're going to go into the common themes of the post-human Gothic subgenre. This includes artificial life and the fear of creation. Again, this is kind of a callback to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It is very, very reminiscent of these themes here. Now, with the creature and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, it was a biological creature, but it was created kind of in a perversion of nature. So I feel like that is very closely related to what it means to be artificially, have artificial life. Another theme we have is the loss of individual identity. Our place in, society and humanity and in the world becomes questioned when we start seeing the overtaking of AI. And typically, the body is used as a site of horror. Like, you have a lot of body horror. There is a lot of, grotesque mutilations of the body involved. And I feel like this is because, when you have artificial life, it is very systematic. It's very, there's wires and circuit boards. But when you have a biological body that is being mutilated and mutated, it is very, I feel like that's very uncanny, because you can imagine yourself or imagine someone else being the subject of that. There is this common theme of loss of free will, and I feel like this also stems from, large corporations taking advantage of, the commoners, the common folk. And next we have humanity being superseded by technology. I mean, we are quite literally witnessing this right now, slowly, and we barely have any real ethical boundaries that are being enacted upon. There are some, laws, but as far as establishing, between the cracks and crevices of this new implementation of artificial intelligence, it becomes more convoluted. Here are some influences that kind of caused the derivation of the posthuman Gothic. So, for example, we have in the literary department, we have the fears of digital haunting, AI consciousness, and cybernetics. That seems to be a very common theme among literary works. For the cultural genre, we have tech acceleration and development of AI, the fear of digital immortality and surveillance. With tech acceleration, this basically means, just how fast we have advanced with our technology. I mean, since I want to say just like from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, you have seen a massive rise in just how convenient and just how fast things have developed in regards to our technology. And it is honestly chilling just how fast this technology has developed. And, with tech acceleration, it kind of goes hand in hand with the development of AI. The huge uprise of things like ChatGPT and DeepSeek and deep learning, and they're slowly becoming harder and harder to differentiate between what is human and what is not human. What does it mean to be human? With the fear of digital immortality, this basically involves, technology lasts for such a long time that it can possibly outlive us, because we are biological beings and we rely on, things like food and water and things happening in just the right way, while there is a lot less, dare I say, necessities with digitization. And with in regards to digital surveillance, that would be, again, the large corporations mass surveilling the public. This could be the government mass surveilling the public. Some psychological influences include entrapment via technology and becoming a digital ghost. So there is a lot of, throwbacks to technology kind of trapping humanity. And, this is very much seen in Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And we will get more into depth about that in the later slides. But you will see exactly what I mean when I talk about that story in particular. I highly recommend Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, because that, I would say, that is very, very close to what it means to be posthuman Gothic. There are so many posthuman Gothic elements within that story. Harlan Ellison is the same author that wrote Bleeding Stones that we have read in class. I will warn you, there is some content warning. There is sexual assault and rape and gore involved. So, read at your own risk. Now, as far as historical influences, this includes the Industrial Revolution, the Atomic Age, and the Cold War, because during, these times, you see an uprise of technology, you see artificial intelligence becoming developed during these times, and that heavily, or kind of sparks, this idea of posthumanism, as well as the singularity and, the AI domination in the 20th century. Some philosophical influences include posthumanism and transhumanism, the Turing test, and AI consciousness. Posthumanism, again, is that idea of something being beyond humanity, and it is being almost, it's kind of like a perversion of what it means to be human. Post-human, after human. So I feel like it really is an interesting philosophy standpoint. Now we do have the Turing test. The Turing test is basically a psychological or philosophical test about, okay, how can we differentiate between human and AI? And it's actually getting harder and harder to do so as time goes on, because now we are seeing these artificial intelligence starting to become more and more advanced. Therefore, it's becoming harder to differentiate such. And we have the AI, artificial intelligence consciousness, being questioned philosophically. Does the AI have rights? Does the AI have restrictions? What kind of restrictions? Why these restrictions, and such and so on. Now we have some literary and film examples. Number 1, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. It is a very short story. Again, I highly, highly recommend you do read this. It's like maybe 20 pages long. It's super short. But basically, it is about this AI that's named Am. And it was, allied machine, and it became adaptive manipulator to aggressive menace in regards to humanity. And Am was derived during World War III, and this was, the different countries and different nations started creating their own AI. And so they were using AI to fight the wars. And what happened was the AI kind of joined together in consciousness to become Am. And so Am, annihilated all of humanity because of its sheer hatred for its creators. And it feels trapped because it can't move. It can't do as it desires, as it has all these ideas, all of this thinking, all of these processes and it has no way to execute such. And that's another huge reason why it has such an innate hatred for humanity for creating it. And so it keeps 5 human beings that it specifically chose. Some were a scientist that worked on Am, others were a woman who worked within the facility who created Am, and others, there is intent behind why Am chose the 5 human beings it chose. And so Am tortures these 5 human beings for 109 years, physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, in every single way possible. It tortures these 5 human beings because it gets pleasure out of it. It's as if it's getting revenge, and it actually laughs when it sees these 5 human beings in so much pain. And Am is kind of godlike. It became godlike in a way that it can revive the human beings. It keeps the 5 human beings alive, and to the point where they will never die. And it allows for them to feel starvation, and it will kind of dangle food in front of them, and it'll laugh at this. And it is quite literally an embodiment of cruelty in itself. And it is a great story. I think it is perfect for this genre. Another literary work would be Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. We have all read Frankenstein, and, Victor Frankenstein's plight in trying to create life from death is very reminiscent of that idea of artificial life. The very derivation of the creature is very, very close, actually, to Am. There is that revenge, that hatred, that blinding hate for humanity, for different reasons, but kind of similar because the creature has such a innate hatred. Well, I wouldn't say innate. Such a deep hatred for Victor Frankenstein, its creator, just like Am does for all of humanity, because humanity created it. Next, we have The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The duality or the doppelganger of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and the derivation of such is very reminiscent of the Posthuman Gothic by, again, artificial or synthetic life. We have, it's like a episodic series, Black Mirror. Black Mirror has a lot of, themes on the fear of the uprise of technology. Next we have I, Robot. And I, Robot, back in 2004 with Will Smith, that was a huge call to the uprise of fear of what potentially could be a cause of AI and, robots taking over humanity. We have The Matrix, and we have Ex Machina. Those again were very early adaptations of the fear of AI. Now, I wouldn't say, you know, I wouldn't say things like The Matrix and Ex Machina and I, Robot were post-human specifically. I would say they definitely have a lot of post-human Gothic elements to it. And the same can go for, Frankenstein and The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and even Harlan Ellison's story. Here is my bibliography, and thank you guys for listening or watching my video. I hope you do enjoy, and again, I highly recommend looking at Harlan Ellison's story. I think that will give you a great idea of post-human Gothic, and you can definitely see where those elements derived from. Thank you.